Museveni's son, uh, basically saying that. But let's keep politics out of the
Okay,
recording. Yeah.
so greetings, comrades. Once again, feel most welcome. Welcome to Consciousness Study Group. As usual, this is our class where we study the philosophy and ideology of Kwame Nkrumah. And today we are continuing our study, which takes the reading, then the study later. So we do the reading, then we share our thinking, and that's how we've been progressing. Today we are actually touching on a very interesting subject here, the Platonic philosophy, and that will be the basis of our discussions today. So before I do that, I like actually Brother Carrington to read it for us, at least word by word, so that when we start the sharing of our thoughts or our thinking, we will be able to connect this. This is what to do. So once again, feel most welcome. Thank you to those who have joined us so far. Thank you very much. Brother Carrington.
Thank you very much, Brother Pigeon. Welcome to the class, everyone. As usual, I'm going to try read as slowly as possible, as clearly as possible, so that we can pull out something from the paragraph. In order to destroy the Platonic philosophical basis of oligarchy, as I have already mentioned, Aristotle rejected the Platonic hypothesis about the knowledge of truth. To Plato's mind, the truth can only be perceived and appreciated by the highest reasons subjected to the most exacting discipline. Political and social truth was therefore accessible only to the brainwashed minds of his intellectual oligarchy. Aristotle rejected this and made the truth accessible to all and possible appreciation by all. Plato, to make sure that the truth was really out of the reach of many, deposited in a heavenly bank. He called his truths forms, and he made them the eerie population of a gossamer heaven. Just as Marx stood Hegel's idea on its head, so Aristotle recalled the so-called forms back to earth and restored them to nature. The nature which is open to us all and which we are all familiar. He denied that the forms were capable of existence outside natural objects. He held that whoever was capable of observing natural objects was capable of detecting forms. But in any case, he impugned the forms on the ground of their utter uselessness as instruments of knowledge or explanation. No carpenter, he said, first studied a form in order to make his furniture.
Thank you very much, Brother Carrington. And once again, greetings to all of you. I made me to recognize your presence. Brother Carrington, of course, in UK, from Kenya, Brother The King Maoli from Ghana, Brother Kamashunde from Zambia, Brother Kofi. I hope Brother Kofi is from Ghana as well. And then we have Brother Gonza, and then we have this comrade who joined the Techno BF7. Kelly, comrade with the Techno BF7, if you can be able to once at least tell us who you are or even chat us. Techno BF7.
Okay. This is Mazon Daka from Zambia, Lusaka.
Oh, Mazon Daka from Zambia, Lusaka.
Yes.
So, okay, hope you know Brother Kama Shunde.
Sorry?
Do you know Brother Kama?
Yes, I know him.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. I'll try to get your name so that every time you join, I can change it. Because there's a day I think I actually put you in a waiting room because I didn't know what's your exam. So please text me on the chat so that always when you come in, I can put your name and then don't have any suspicion to put you back on waiting room. Sorry for that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so comrades, welcome. We have actually reached at more of a very interesting point. Back to the battle between the Plato and Aristotle. And as you are reading this, actually, just to give a review, we started with Socrates. We moved from Socrates to Plato. From Plato to Aristotle. And now, we know very well that Plato took a different direction as per what Socrates was taking in regards to equality of men. Plato brought some aspects in the past of impact of education, classifying or categorizing people in a society. In fact, he says that because there are some people can be doctors and teachers and all rest, therefore education could make them different in a society. Aristotle tries to also bring back the element of division in a society, where he's actually believing that some men were actually born naturally as slaves. So being slave or being of a low class in a society, to Aristotle was more of natural, while to Plato was to be a basis of differences in a society. So because you are all learned, now you are more equal than other. And we saw in the previous chapter, actually, Nkrumah insisting in these two contesting ideologies or philosophies. Nkrumah then emphasizes that the differences, either in functional level, should and is not meaning a difference in the intrinsic worth of individual. Which basically what Nkrumah was trying to drive is that irrespective of difference in a society where one is a policeman or one is a doctor, one is a teacher, one is whatever, that differences in terms of functional differences, which then might have resulted out of what Plato was giving as a basis of division in a society or difference in a society, where Plato was basing his argument on education. And we know very well that this various classification of work or what you call profession in a society is more of a result of education. But even traditionally in African context, there were division of labor. There were those who were fishing, there were those who were doing what? Women were doing something, men were doing something different. That was a division of labor. But to our tradition, it was not more of out of education, but it was out of practice and observation. And therefore, our knowledge as men, all men were to do same thing. All women were to do same thing. There was no division that one man is more smarter than the other man to do this. No, they could be trained, and maybe based on demands of society, someone now could be taken to be security, some could be taken to be what and what to protect the society. Now, Nkrumah challenged that position, the Plato's position of education being a basis of differences in society, where Nkrumah says that yes, we did not actually wish of no differences of what you call egalitarianism, that as much as egalitarianism push for equality of men in a society, and this context, men and women in a society, there is differences and we cannot ignore differences. And those differences, Nkrumah then stress that the differences that makes one to be a doctor, one to be a teacher, one to be a farmer are only functional differences and do not mean any superiority or do not mean any inferiority of any person in terms of their net worth or in terms of the intrinsic worth of being. So irrespective of one being a farmer, is a worth human being as same as one who is a doctor, as same as one who is a president, and therefore there is no one who is more equal than the other or the one who is more preferable than the other. But then we realize Aristotle bringing the aspect that some people were actually inferior, irrespective of him supporting some level of egalitarianism, where he said that people come together and the state is actually a union of individuals and not aggregation of men, a union of individuals pursuing the same goal, but that individuals who pursue common goal then actually left out some people whom we felt were inferior as slaves. Like people whom we call, where you say the slaves were naturally inferior. And therefore, in the common good of a society or a state, probably that good could not entail a slave. And that's the question that was asked. Can a slave pursue the common good as same as the masters or those who call themselves superior than them? And now, Nkrumah stressed on the equality of intrinsic worth of being. So here, we are meeting now the conversation back now between Plato and Aristotle. Back to the argument and their differences in terms of their thinking. And this is very interesting. And I would like us to, as we always do, we go around and ask you to share what is your thinking in regards to what you did here. Key points that comes out that we will have to go through in our conversation is the Plato's theory of form, which you have read here, Aristotle critique of that Plato. So how does Aristotle challenge Plato's theory of forms? And what are the implications of his critique for understanding reality in a society? We are also going to come across, which is already here, is the role of reason and experience. How do reason and experience contribute to understanding of the world? And the implication of for social and political thought. So this, just to mention a few, are part of what we anticipate to look at in the process of us sharing our thinking and to build it together to understand the society. You are allowed to actually share your thinking critically to the text as it is, and by extensively go extra mile to link it to the current societal challenges and societal problems that we face today. And this was part of what we were already discussing with brothers here before on how maybe Kenyan society looks like in regards to what is also that you are reading here. So thank you very much once again. And before I allow members to go either share their thinking, I see our chair, Brother Kwame, is here with us. Brother Kwame, please welcome us officially and let's proceed. Brother Kwame. Okay, I get a signal that Brother Kwame is okay, so we'll proceed. Feel free anytime, Brother Kwame, to come in case of anything else. Just feel free to come in and point it out. So, Brother Gonza, you are here at the beginning of this conversation. So please share with us your thinking in regards to this text, and in particular also how you will learn to tie it to the current African society or country state as it is as today. But feel free to share your thinking with us. Then we will go to Brother Kama, then Brother Carrington. Brother Gonza?
Thank you, Chair. I think I wanted to first do some filtration of my thoughts very well. I was still putting my thoughts together. Maybe you can go to the next person and I'll come back later.
I'll allow you to put your thoughts together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Brother Kama?
I think same with me. I was just thinking through what you have been, how you summarized, what you said. And I think you are correct in what your analysis were, except for this one, I'm still thinking how to connect what we've been saying.
Okay, thank you. Brother Carrington, hope you... Brother Carrington?
Yes, I can. Do I proceed? Can you hear me, Brother Pigeon?
Please proceed, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters. This paragraph is a very interesting paragraph because it calls back to some ideas we have been discussing in the entire chapter about how these first famous three Greek philosophers understood knowledge and how knowledge is connected to power, social power, political power, and economic and economic power. Plato is what you would call in the modern world an elitist who believes that there is a specific special understanding of the world, social, philosophical, physical world, that can only be accessed by a special class of people. And Brother Pigeon, please feel free to correct me. Brother Kwame, please feel to correct me. It seems as if Plato believed it is more than just a matter of education, but also a matter of quite biology, that there is something biological about the blacksmith. There is something biological about the shopkeeper, or natural, let's say. And there's something natural about the philosopher, that they are naturally predisposed to their ways of understanding and working in the world. And that therefore the philosophers, these people who are quote unquote naturally philosophers, we could call them academics in the modern world, and doctors, teachers, etc., include anyone who does knowledge work, that they are some form of special people, specially inclined towards this privileged understanding of the truth. Now, what happens is that
Sorry,
Plato,
Brother Carrington. Yeah,
yeah,
just to
please
confirm,
correct me
yes.
if I'm wrong.
No,
Yeah,
no, just to confirm, you are correct. That he believed that the rules were rooted in nature. Yes.
yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So it is much more, can I say, conservative? Yes, it is that these things are necessarily the way they are because they are natural. So what is this truth that Plato believes? Plato believes that there are ideals of things, that there is an ideal chair, to use the example in the paragraph, ideal table, ideal triangle, ideal circle. There's an ideal human being, there is an ideal society, and that these things are actually, I don't want to say physically real, but they are fundamentally real and live in a space that is inaccessible to us, except for these special people who have natural abilities to access this plane of existence and also have practiced continuously, preferably in his own academy, to access this sort of special plane of existence. And even so, this special group of people will only be able to do it once they will only be able to get shadows of this universe. And this helps Plato explain the hierarchy of his society, not just the hierarchy of citizen and slave, but also the hierarchy of king, soldier, priest, and peasant, and philosopher. It helps explain that society is organized this way because society has to be organized this way. And this is sort of, you can understand as the conservative position in this paragraph. Aristotle, who is his student and who also historically we have come to understand as not also being somehow conservative or radically conservative for that matter, rejects this idea of the truth. Aristotle, again, please, Brother Christian, correct me if I'm wrong. Aristotle is a form of empiricist. He believes that truth is not to be accessed by your education or standing. Truth is to be accessed by your ability to verify what you are saying about the world, to test it out, essentially. And therefore, access to the truth is open to he or she who is willing to do the work, essentially. And for this reason, Plato rejects completely, this position of Plato. Aristotle rejects the position of Plato. And this is the second part of the paragraph, i.e., truth has to be grounded. Truth has to be grounded in physical reality. And since it is grounded in physical reality, I, Carrington Kinyanjui, Pidgin Odimwengu, nobody has special access to the truth, and access to the truth comes basically through work, the ability to be willing to do the work to get the said truth. So that is contrasting Aristotle's and Plato's worldviews and their meaning for politics later on. Thank you very much.
And out of that analysis, where do your thinking stands on?
Now, I would really resist to have to choose between Plato and Aristotle. So they are like, okay, here is Plato and here is Aristotle, and I'm all the way the other side. I'm very far from them. But I would say Aristotle is much closer to how I understand the world scientifically than Plato is, i.e., there is no special priest or special scientist who should help you understand the truth of the world. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your thinking. As I've said,
Can I comment?
yes, come up, please come in.
I think that was my line of thought also. You know, I was thinking about, personally, I'm more closer to Aristotle because, you know, I'm looking at my experience. You know, I've been a police officer for 33 years. And then I've done things from experience, you know, from my fieldwork experience that even educated people have never done. I've been able to explain things that educated people are not able to. And one fun thing, sorry to say not all, but most of the educated people, they only have head knowledge, you know, and at the end of the day, they are not very practical. They're not very practical. I don't know, maybe it's their fear that they want to preserve, you know, their education. They're not even risk takers at all. I don't agree with the fact that the truth can only be known because you have gone through the four corners of a classroom. You know, there is also truth. There is education that is from experience and from practical way of doing things. That's I believe in that. You know, there's what I've read as Aristotelian knowledge or bonus. That is knowledge beyond that of the classroom, but into what is true and what is correct. And this is what Africans have had. You know, this knowledge that the West brought to us, it's not the truth. It's something that they concocted to come and confuse us, so that, you know, we don't do things the way we are supposed to do it. And that's why today, an African, to tell him to go to be a farmer, when actually from farming, that's where we can get the freedom from. They think that is being dirty, is uneducated. It's only people that have never been to school that are supposed to be farming. But that's where there is life. And that's the little comment I can give.
Thank you. Brother Carrington, you want to come in?
Yes. I just to agree completely with Brother Kwama and to add a very important thing, because I am a teacher, that the problem of Africa is that we think it is the job of classrooms to generate knowledge. Classrooms always do one simple thing, and this is something we must accept that our European cousins are very good with: systematizing, developing, and exchanging knowledge. That is the job of a classroom. But the generation of the knowledge, yes, all societies are experts at generating knowledge. Now, how to manage that knowledge is a different ballgame altogether. we Africans have forgotten how we used to generate knowledge for the last 250,000 years, that is by experience, and then picked this system of managing a knowledge which we do not know how to generate, and it is not working for us, and we do not understand why it is not working. It is not working because, just as Brother Kama said, classrooms are not good things for generating knowledge. They are good things for disseminating or managing knowledge. I think that is a very important point. And hence this question of, does the teacher or the lecturer have special access to knowledge? Yeah. Or he or she just a manager of knowledge?
Thank you. I'll wish also to come in here. Today I've actually remembered to share my thinking in advance, because most of the time I'm intrigued to share my thinking, even though I'll be continuing the sharing. Most of the time I've been forgetting to share my thinking until everything else, and so I become an observant. But I also like it. But permit me just to join here now that I've been intrigued to share my thinking. Then I'll proceed the list as well. Plato views that knowledge is something outside our scope. That truth to knowledge is something that's outside our scope. And I'm feeling it's something close to what the priests are believing in. That the divine connection to talk to God is not something that everybody can grasp. It's somebody that is heavenly based. And Plato feel that, and I think there's a writing in that Meno, the book Meno that we quoted sometimes back, where Socrates, Plato's quoting a Socrates and the slave boy. There's even just a clear statement. Plato is saying that there were people who are either born to be masters and they are to be separated and kept aside, so that they just perfect to be the next leaders. And I think this is what the royal families does through the inheritance and the rest. That they know that these are royal families, so everybody in that family is assumed to be so royal that they are having the right direction or the right mandate to be the next leaders. And this is also trying to be practiced in Africa. Look at it. As I was just quoting, Museveni is saying his wife, the son of Museveni is saying his mother, who is the wife of the president, should be the next president. In Kenya, the first president Kenyatta's son became the president. And we know all this has been going on across the continent, where the families feel that they're specially made to be the leaders, and that leadership ability or knowledge to that political leadership is only accessible to the few who cannot even have ability to reach it. So I'm seeing Plato believing that knowledge resides in some other realm up there, and this goes even beyond things like knowledge. And they argue that these forms could only be grasped by highly trained mind, implying that political and social truth were only accessible to select intellectuals. But I think this is what Socrates was trying to challenge in that so-called book Meno that we came across some times back, where Socrates now decided to bring a slave boy. He wanted to prove that there's nothing meant for only or separated for intellectuals. Everything is accessible to everyone as long as they can be given whatever is required. Well, as long as they can be able, for example, Brother Carrington, you are a teacher. It doesn't mean that a farmer cannot be a teacher. If a farmer is given the ability and the conditions to be a teacher, he will be a teacher. So it doesn't mean that you as a physicist or a teacher, you are naturally a teacher, and therefore a farmer might be appearing to be a lower person who cannot grasp anything to do with teaching. The same way, in a society that actually Aristotle was living, by assuming there were slaves who are natural slaves, it doesn't mean that those whom he referred to his community as slaves were not able to have ability to lead if given the opportunity to do so. And therefore, there's nothing that is to what I'm trying to challenge to Plato. There's actually nothing that is meant for a specific sector of a society. Look, for example, USA went for an election. One was a woman, one was a man. But some people could not vote for a woman, thinking that a woman could not have the leadership capacity or qualities. So these are a few things that are coming up that I'm also trying to observe here. So permit me to stop there. I'll proceed as I'm trying to work on my charging cable. So let me get, Brother Kwame, do you want to come in? I'll proceed maybe sometimes later. Just in some 1 or 2 minutes. Brother Kwame?
I've kind of lost track of the discussion. So I only heard Brother Kama talking about farming, and then the message continued, and then the discussion continued from there. So yeah.
Okay.
So continue so I can get hold of the discussion again. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I was sharing my thinking in regards to the same paragraph, and mine was now going straight to issues to do with also what Plato is raising in regards to this text. But I'm trying to one, actually share what I understand from his text, and also relate to what I think is my own thinking on how I see the things. So let me proceed then. So this aspect that Aristotle.
Yeah. So sorry. Let me come in. So I think Brother Carrington was sharing. Was the last person sharing when I came down from the train. So I just want to chip in that let's remind ourselves why Plato is saying what he's saying, because I think that will help us to understand where he's coming from. So let's remind ourselves that all this talk about the forms being in heaven and only accessible to a few elites, that's all because of what happened to Socrates, because his teacher was killed by the Greek political system.
Brother,
it was very yes.
So do you want to defend Plato's philosophical style just because out of fear, or do you think it was also rooted in him, not only out of fear?
I think I'm trying to explain the social milieu that led him to come up with this very, very, shall I say, transcendental position on knowledge and on forms. So I'm only saying that let's remind ourselves why he came up with this, and if we remind ourselves why he came up with this, then we are in a better position to reject it or accept it. I don't know if I'm making sense. So we should not see what he's saying as sacrosanct, because remember, he's also coming up with a philosophy to defend what he believes society should look like, and that is what we also as Africans are trying to do. All the development of philosophy and the challenge to the Greek origin of everything, which is all part of the historical erasure and racism, the denial that Africans contributed anything to history and all that. As you know, all that was a philosophical position to continue to exploit us. And so this book we are reading is if you like, an attempt to correct that and to put us in a position to understand that we need an alternative philosophy to combat what they've been telling us. So I suppose I'm only trying to say that let's remind ourselves where Plato's position is coming from, and then so that we understand that he did what we are being called upon to do. Am I making sense, Brother Pigeon?
Yeah, now I get you. Thank you.
So he is doing what we are called upon to do, which is that we must come up with a new philosophy that challenges the four major Western ideological positions. And you know, they are liberalism, conservatism, social reformism, and Western Marxism. These four ideologies are the ideologies that are being used to dominate us. And so that's that. So basically, Plato has done what we should be doing. And so I'm just trying to say that we should not read too much into what Plato is saying. What is important is the fact that Aristotle, who is his student, even challenged him, which is a text you have highlighted. So Aristotle, who is even Plato's student, even during that time, is saying that his teacher was wrong. And that's not true, that there are no such things as forms in any heaven. That if you want to know anything, just observe the world and you are capable of seeing what anybody see, scientifically speaking, that is, yeah. That our brother Carrington here is a physicist. Brother Carrington here is just a great physicist and a computer scientist like any other. How did he get to be where he is? Through observation, study, and everything else. You know, so it's not anything that is that's Aristotle saying that Plato's position is not special. But the point I'm making is that what Plato is saying and what Aristotle is counter saying are all part of what we as Africans are being called upon by the Osagifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, to do. Let me pause there, Brother Pigeon, so that you can hear from others. Yeah.
Brother, come before you go.
No, I'm not going. I'm here. I just want to pause.
Pause. Now,
go on.
Now that you brought the aspect of nature in regards to, or natural in regards to what Aristotle is saying here, this fits, or did this actually confirm to the stand that Kwame took in the first chapter, where he ended by saying that our universe is a natural universe?
Precisely.
Okay.
Precisely. So the summary of chapter 1 was that our universe is a natural universe. Now, as you've rightly pointed out, that came from the argument of Thales. And remember what Thales said. Thales said that the universe is composed of water, which is matter. But remember that Nkrumah only used Thales as an example, but he also mentioned others, like Heraclitus. And Heraclitus said that the universe was made up of what? Fire. You remember that? And then there was Parmenides, and he said the universe is made up of what? And sorry, Anaximenes, who said the universe was made up of
water. Alexander.
No, Anaximenes. He said he said the universe was made up of air. And then finally, we also read about Democritus, who said the universe is made up of atoms. Now you recognize that those four things I've mentioned, atoms, solid, water, liquid, air, gas, and fire, that those four things are what Brother Carrington has explained to us, in our class. They are solid, liquid, gas, and then plasma, which is what how the sun generates its heat. So you can see that the idea that the universe is made up of matter is already in the pre-Socratic philosophers, was among them. So that's what we looked at in chapter 1, and so you're drawing our attention to the conclusion in chapter 1 is apt. Let us remember that there are those who argue that Aristotle is the originator of empiricism. They see him as the father of empiricism. But then you realize that that claim is all part of the racism and the historical erasure, which is the fact that they didn't want to recognize other civilizations that existed long before Aristotle was born, like the Chinese philosophy, Babylon, Egypt, China, and so on. You know, all these traditions had observation and classification. You observe, you classify, and so on. Those scientific methods were practiced long before Aristotle was born. You know, how were they practiced? You know that the Babylonians, the Chinese, the Africans, they observed the stars, they classified them, and so on. Only last week, Saturday, our own brother Raspala told us about the Dogon people, you know, and their knowledge of the Sirius star, and so on and so forth. So the idea that Aristotle is the father of observation, classification, which is the empirical method, is simply not true. You know, so that is all in that paragraph you have highlighted. So let's just
Thank you.
bear these in mind. Thanks.
So let me complete my thinking, because I decided to share my thinking in between before I proceed, because I always forget to share my thinking and end up listening. Of course, sometimes if you share, it's also good, but let me continue briefly to share my thinking in regards to the text. So I'm seeing, as I was saying, I'm seeing Aristotle trying to put the knowledge, as is being said here, to be a distant thing that not ordinary people can attain, and only a select group of a society can attain it. And probably the intellectual, the oligarchs in a society could attain this knowledge. And as I was saying again, trying to connect it to African context, of course, there are people who still feel that some information or some knowledge or some positions in Africa are meant for some group of people, not for everybody else. Like, I'll say, for example, when I try to pursue my political ambition, people will tell me, no, you can't go for presidency. That's meant for people who have what and what and what. Yours is only either go for these village positions or local positions, but up there, leave it aside. And you get that it goes beyond even my age sometimes, because they say you're young. Someone say, oh, you are poor, you can't go for that. That's meant for people who have money. You can only go for these things. Some are also meant for gender discrimination. Some will say, no, a woman cannot be a president or whatever. Oh, that's only meant for men or whatever. Some will say, oh, somebody who's not married cannot go for what? That's only meant. So this idea that there's some also beyond knowledge, that there's some set of positions or roles in a society that's only meant for upper level of people, and that everybody else are not accessible to it, is basically what I'm seeing, also reading in Plato's thinking here. But I'm also seeing it in regards also to what we were reading before when you're dealing with idealist mentality, because actually this is a pure idealist mentality. And in the aspect of hierarchy of whatever that then brings hierarchy in a society or classes in a society, where the priests believe that they're the only people with the divine power to connect and understand what was godly or heavenly, and therefore the rest were only to tap it from them. So this is also something that I'm seeing, and I think in our previous class we also read somewhere that there was a distraction, there was an information to destroy that which the religious class or the priesthood was holding in a society, by ensuring that power now came back to the people, and like how the priesthoods control of power. And this was even a struggle up to date in these countries like in Kenya, where they still want to believe that leader is chosen by God, and it's them who should pray for that to get a leader who should come from heaven. And I'm seeing now the second part of this text, Aristotle is now rejecting, as Brother Kwame has said, Aristotle is rejecting it by disagreeing on the existence of separation of the physical world from what now Aristotle was trying to separate, Plato was trying to separate the knowledge and the physical world. But the knowledge is somewhere up there, not where we are here. But Aristotle is trying to say that no, everything is within the universe. everything is within the nature and the environment. If you can be able to tap and understand your nature very well, you can control knowledge and all the truths that you want. And I see this also being practical to those who are, especially, they call them the midwives or midwifery, or those who are helping deliver or help our mothers deliver in the villages. They never went for any schooling anywhere, but they could be able to understand the society of the women, or even look at the herbalist in the society. They could be able to know which drugs in a society, which plants could be able to heal. Look at our seers in a society. They could be able to know what was wrong and maybe correct a society to ensure that, no, can you sacrifice a lamb or do this and things will be okay. So there are so many people who could read the nature or the universe or the nature and could be able to tell the society where we are going wrong and how we can correct it as we move along. So it was not like they were tapping somewhere else. They could tap to the environment and the natural existence, and they could be able to control and actually give the society a direction. But this aspect again, yes, yes.
You see, all that you said is correct, but that is not what Plato is interested in. You see, Plato is interested in governance. Who rules society? You know, he's not about who is a herbalist, who is a this, who is a farmer. Those are not his main concern. His main concern is that, like you were saying earlier, those who govern society must be special people who have access to the truth. And that truth is in their ideals, as it were, in the mind of God. So only those who can access that, it is only they that can be. So his model of governance is philosopher kings. So in order for you to be a king, you must be a philosopher. And that if you're not a philosopher, you cannot be a king. So he is fundamentally interested in governance. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, I was trying to, thank you for that. I was trying to point on where Aristotle's position was also coming in. That's why I was getting what Aristotle was trying to talk about. But I'm still ask you a question in regards to this. I'm seeing Aristotle is now bringing it back, as he said, bring it back to earth, and ensuring by saying that the knowledge was made accessible to everyone who was capable of observing the natural world. But the question is, by saying that the knowledge was not accessible to everyone, then probably Aristotle could then assume the egalitarianism aspect a bit. And then what brings conflict here is when he could say that some, as he said, people could observe the natural world, but he could then say in the previous paragraph that some people are slaves naturally. So does it mean those became slaves naturally and could never observe the universe?
Yeah, but Brother Pigeon, the fact that you're a slave doesn't mean you cannot be a mathematician. Remember that it was Socrates that called a slave boy Meno. Remember the Meno one, the Meno story, where he demonstrated that even Meno, who was a slave, could access mathematical knowledge, which is one of the knowledge that was deposited with the gods. That's mathematical knowledge, is rational knowledge. Remember, mathematics doesn't depend on experience as such. Yeah, mathematics depends on ultimately on abstract thinking. That 2 and 2 is 4 is not because you can prove it by any empirical method. 2 and 2 is 4 because it's true through abstract reasoning. So Meno, in the example that Plato told us about, where Socrates used Meno, Meno was able to access that, and that is the Pythagorean theorem, which, as you know, Brother Carrington can explain more about this to us, which underpins electricity, magnetism, and so on and so forth. So yes, you are right that he says people are naturally inferior and so on, but the fact that you're naturally inferior presumably doesn't prevent you from being able to have access to knowledge. Some of the best students sometimes are from very poor homes. When there is an exam, the students who get the top marks are sometimes the children of the very poor people. And it's the rich people who go and bribe schools to take their children, but their children can't pass exams.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Let me try to finish in 1 or 2 minutes my thinking. Then I can allow the group also to proceed. And Brother Kwame, you will always, in case of any clarification, anybody, you feel free to come in anytime, Brother Kwame. Let me just rush in a minute or two to finish my thinking. Then I see new members who have also joined to share their thinking. Basically, to those who have joined us, we are trying to share our thinking on this paragraph. So it's not a monologue or a dialogue, but basically we are trying to form our thinking in regards to this. So you read this paragraph that is highlighted. Try to help us understand your thinking in regards to the paragraph. So we always go around. I'll read your name. Once I read your name, please feel free to come in and share with us what do you think out of this paragraph. That's basically. So I'll only be touching briefly on what the Hegel and Marx coming in here. I'm seeing the touching of Marx and Hegel here, and I'm seeing here is more of the passage now draws a parallel actually between Aristotle's critique and Plato and Marx's critique of Hegel, where of course you see Hegel believed that reality was fundamentally spiritual or idea. But Marx stood Hegel on his head. Actually, Marx was arguing that material conditions shape consciousness, not the other way around. Overcoming.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. To type. You continue. I think I pressed the button by error. Yeah, go, please continue.
Okay, so with this, Marx challenging Hegel's position is almost what you are seeing here. Because now I'm seeing is bringing Marx here, where Marx actually challenged Hegel. Hegel believes that reality was fundamentally spiritual or ideal. That's an idea. That's the reality. But Marx believed no. It was material condition that could shape the consciousness, that could shape that reality, not the other way around. So similarly, we also see Aristotle brought Plato's form back to earth and grounding them on the material world. So there's aspect of the material condition also coming in here a bit. And that's what I can share so far as my thinking before I go within the list to try my best to ensure that everybody at least have an opportunity to share their thinking. Brother Kone, do you want to say something before I go to Brother Gonza?
Yeah, just to say that you have nailed it right on the head. That Marx started as a Hegelian, and then so Hegel was kind of.
Brother Kone, we can't hear you. Okay. Brother Kone, just know that we can't hear you. Maybe if you're speaking, please come back anytime and we'll be able to allow you to proceed. Brother Gonza, I mentioned you, but you said you are forming some thoughts around this. Hope you have been able to do that. Since I feel most welcome, I recognize also the presence of Brother Senior Prince and Jehovanis who have joined us now, and I believe this is also another sister, Hilda. Feel most welcome. Brother Gonza?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. So the way I look at what is happening here, I think is the issue of two opposing sides or dialectics in society. Because on one side we have this man who is saying that society should be governed by the elite, and then the other man who was Aristotle, the first person who was Plato, who of course opined that is the elites or the educated or the intellect should govern society. So we have two sides here. People who are from actually the same society having different ideas of what should be done in shaping the future or the direction of society, or the majority of people also should participate and stuff like that. So what I see here for me is that the Western thinking has a habit which I find very nonsensical, of being extreme, all right? Always drawing a line and saying, for example, me, I'm a conservative, and then me, I'm on this side, and therefore you are wrong. Therefore, we should go this side. Okay. For a long time, I believe that African society had solved these problems. Of course, we had challenges. For example, if you go to Egypt, that there was elites. They are the ones who governed society in that a particular civilization until, of course, challenges arose and they fell because even within themselves they developed infighting and all these weaknesses came up. And of course, we can see this even with the Caesar Rome, that the elites developed after governing for some time and directing society in one way or another, going in a certain direction. They developed infighting with, to the struggle for this power, and then things fell apart. All right. So I think that African society, in one way or that, or at least some societies, like for example, if you go to Kenya, how Kenya before colonialism was, this is a place which, and of course, King, Comrade Pigeon, you can correct me on that, on how Kenya was. But I think that Kenya had taken care of this problem, and even there's another kingdom in where I come from, the tribe I come from in Uganda is called Ibasoga. They had figured out how to govern society. That in the tribe where I come from, you have clans, and the chair moved from clan to clan. If this clan governed, their king who was sitting, he had to govern until death. But if he died, then the chair moved to the next clan. It was not hereditary. So it was some sort of democratic system, but it was not for electing. It was for everyone to govern, and it brought everyone together to feel part of that one society. And if you go to Kenya, you can see that there was no one person who was governing society. Right? So somehow,
Gonza,
yes.
just to confirm that from Kenya, my tribe or my community, we call nationality, still has actually a traditional president. We call him the title president, Kir. Apart from the political position, there's still a president of my community with the name Kir. And when one died, like there I've now seen 3 of them go by. It's not about their family. So when one died, another person came in, not from the same family, but it was moved to other side of the South Nyanza. In Kenya, we have my community from both others in the central and the south. So the king, the president, former president was from the central. Now the current one is from the south, but not in the same family. So that's also to just clarify what you're saying.
Yeah. So you can see that because the challenge here, the problem here is power. All right. Is power, where is the power? So you can see that these societies had figured out how to decentralize the power, to decentralize power so that power can be in different corners. But of course, this system too had its own challenges, because remember, why are people always coming up with all these kind of thinkings? Okay, is because they are looking for a perfect society. Plato is saying, okay, it's the elites who should give direction. Why? Because the elites, they know better. Okay, they have all the knowledge of the world. So they should be the ones to guide society. But this thinking too, because of the imperfection of humanity, this thinking too has a problem that these elites, to a certain extent, you may have to a certain extent elites who have come and studied and they are governing society very well, but the corrupt also come within from them. That some of them, they will not study, but they claim to be they have studied or they have this knowledge, and then they take the society down south. And you may find that in the general public, there's people who have all this reasoning, and they are able to reason very well, but they are not allowed again to come and sit in this, governing. So I think that the African society had tried to solve this, but the weakness of ours, looking at the continent before colonialism, that power was in different corners of the continent, we had solved it, but we had a weakness that the way we were governing ourselves, it would not protect us against a more powerful civilization or a more aggressive civilization, okay, that did not care about these things. Like we said, for them, they are extremists. When they have an idea, they take it to the extreme. They take it to the extreme. And this is why in Europe, when they started wars, they could fight even for 10 years, and they camp and they go and eat and cook and rest. And then they start again. They say, we are going to fight again. They are just camping to continue the fighting for 10 years. You see, this is extremism. Okay. So these kind of people, our society, how it was organized, it could not defend itself from this kind of extremism. So you see that people like Nkrumah, they are the ones who saw this, that even though we had these characteristics of keeping our society harmonious, you know, in certain ways harmonious, we needed to have a bigger power to protect us from these external threats while we are practicing this harmony with internally. And of course, that's the military, which all these things which he talked about for a single foreign policy, so that the tribes can then come back home to Africa to live in harmony and practice all these things. So I think that now China, when we go to China, China is a society, I think, which looks like, which had at least succeeded in solving this problem which Europe was, and Aristotle and Plato were grappling with their system that even is actually similar to what they are practicing now, that they had exams and all society was allowed to participate in the exams. And they were contending for, it was like civil service. So the best in society, not just the privileged few who have become like, oligarchy or something like that, or who have become like sort of, the thing is hereditary, monarchs. Okay, because if you look at the system like in the West, how it has become, or even in Rome with the Caesars and all these, how it had become almost like a monarchy. Okay, like even the United States right now, it's like a monarchy. George Bush Senior, George Bush Junior, and then you have these groups of people who know each other. Now the power is concentrated. Nancy Pelosi, now Obama is coming back and rotating, and is the one who's advised and stuff like that. So you can see that in China, you have where society, the whole society almost is allowed to come and participate in the governance of the country. Yet we have in the West, they are pretending that they are the ones who have figured everything out, and therefore they are lying to us that they are practicing what Plato, what Aristotle is saying, to give power to everyone, but yet they are far on the extreme side when it comes to this leadership. They are far on the extreme side of what Plato is saying, elitist, like complete elitist. What is required is not really this elitism of what Plato is saying, or completely what Aristotle is saying, but there's supposed to be a midpoint, how that all society should be allowed to participate in this leadership, but the best among that society should continue to guide that society. But this participation of all, okay, not just in the election, like, because the essence, according to Western world, the essence of election is to help everyone to participate, not just to participate in that sense when most of them are locked out, that they don't participate in governing like directly the country. But people, there should be a mechanism which filters, like in China, it filters out people and pushes them to go and govern the country. They participate like on a certain level equally to be tested that they are ready, or in whatever way, or they are governing a country, or they are governing a community, they are governing, and when they exercise their judgment over there, even though they are not very educated, but of course we understand that today education is very important, is the minimum you can have in society. Okay, we understand that, but we can have different tasks which can filter out these people from wherever they are, and then they should participate in that particular sort of exams, which is not the case in the Western world, that this thing is just paid lip service. And so we see that the West continues even to bring this on the international scale, that they would come, we are the peasants, They tell us what to do. We are the third world, so we tell you what to do. You should go here. We are the elite. We are on the side of Plato. We believe that the elites should govern society. But then they are claiming at the same time. So this is where their hypocrisy comes in. They are claiming that, oh, we are free human beings. We are free human beings. No one should tell you what to do. You are free human beings. You do whatever you want in your society. But then you hear Trump saying that, oh, those are not country. Give me a break. Syria, is it a country? When they were asking him, for example, what do you think about Syria? You people are invading and taking the country's oil, and it is a sovereign country. And they said, give me a break. How is it a sovereign, So you can see that this arrogance is still in there. And they mix it with those lies that they are giving us, opportunity to govern our society. But all this is coming, for me, I believe, in that confusion which is being discussed here, which we are seeing that Aristotle is contending Plato, and that extremism which exists in their society, that it fails to reconcile these two opposing sides and then coexist in society. And I think that this is something which we had mastered ourselves, but only we needed to, as Africans, only we needed to recognize the fact that this was not enough in an evolving world, which is becoming a global village. We needed a greater power to protect us before we can continue to harmonize ourselves and govern ourselves in a harmonized way. And I think that is what Nkrumah was driving at, that we should harmonize at the high level, and then we leave we should protect ourselves at the high level, and then we leave the society, or we find a way of governing society on our own value, what Nkrumah calls the African personality and identity. In everything which we are doing, governance, sports, and all these things, we should have the African personality and identity in there. But we should also understand that we are in the global village, and there's greater forces on the global stage which are not waiting for us to figure things out. We should recognize this very quickly and protect ourselves against them before we can, govern our society and keep it in harmony. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Gonzo. You've actually spoken in detail. And those who don't know, Brother Gonzo is actually the current chairperson of Africa Continental Unity Party. He's actually the rotating chairperson of Africa Continental Unity Party. And therefore, he speaks it from the political aspect as well. And just to also let you know, he's the one who actually brought me to consciousness. I do always appreciate him for all that, holding my hands from where he got me to here. So I'm always appreciative of him, Brother Gonzo. Thank you, Brother Gonzo, for sharing your thinking with us. Let's get to Sister Ida. I wanted to go to Brother the King Maul, but Sister Ida, please, we miss the other voices as well. Sister Ida, I'm happy to see you. Please share with us your thinking.
Today I'm listening. I'm sorry. I was late and I'm listening. I'm sorry. It's listening again this week.
Okay.
So apologies. Thank you.
Okay. Brother the King Maul. Brother the King Mauli. Okay. Brother Coffee.
Yeah, hello. I'm also listening to this, the philosophy of Plato, Aristotle. I mean, I'm not familiar with that territory, but my understanding from all the discussion is all about governance systems, and which governance system works, and which type or group of people can work in a particular governance system. That is what I'm deducing from the conversation that's going on. So if my deduction is that if Plato is in favor of a particular style of governance, he will advocate for a certain group of people to lead that governance system. So you craft a house. Is just the way I'm looking at it from a layman. You design a building, and you then say that, okay, these are the people who can live in the building, and they have created a system. So it's not a universal system, but something created
to serve a certain group of people's interests. But then deep down within that house, there are subsystems. They are all governance systems. So that if you look, and when I look at it from a Western point of view, as an they've created the multi-party style system of governance where elitism flourishes, and they govern by that system. But deep down, if you look beneath that, there's a conflict where you have companies, these multi-million companies, or even every other organization. It's not a political system. So the political system pertains to a certain behavior, whilst the actual running and operation of the economy is run differently. So economy is run in a corporate system, and the corporate system doesn't have politics, doesn't do election. They appoint by merit. And if you look at it from the Chinese point of view, China has adopted the corporate governance system, which is picking a company's way of managing on a meritocratic system to apply that as a political system. So the West has a hybrid where they have all the multi-party going on, but beneath that, they have a corporate system. And that corporate system is running all these pharmaceuticals and everything, and they actually direct business. They make businesses flourish. China has something similar in a sense that it is invested more in a corporate system where it's about meritocracy and abilities to rule and govern the nation. Whilst we are, and Nkrumah's idea was to say, we all have to design our own system, what works best, taking into account our different tribes, and tribes are a good thing. They all have the strength. So picking the various tribes, as well as picking our various chieftaincy, picking our resources, and design our own system which works best, which I believe very well that it has to be based on a meritocratic system, rather than if we tilter down the line of the Western elitism, Plato's system. That is where they defeat us, and then he calls some people subordinate slaves and that sort of. So that's my own deduction from it. But I'm not a philosophy person. I'm just a common man. Thank you.
Yes. Kofi, can I come in? Kofi Gushungo. Interesting name. I'm just wondering which part of Africa you are from, but putting that aside for now. I think you have kind of grasped the essence of this paragraph, which you've picked from the discussions we've had. But I want to push you a little bit in the sense that a governance system is an ideological framework, and we'll look more at that in chapter 3 of the book. What we are reading here is the philosophical system. So Nkrumah is inviting you. I know you say you are not a philosophy person, but actually you are. Everything you have said so far is philosophical. So Nkrumah wants ordinary Africans to be comfortable with philosophy. And by philosophy, we mean that there are two ways of looking at the world, two fundamental ways. There is the way where you say that the universe is made up of ideas, and then the alternative is that the universe is made up of matter. Those are the two basic ways you can see the world. What we are looking at, in as much as Plato is positing for us a governance system in terms of the fact that only some people have access to the truth, and Aristotle, who is his student, is saying no, that is not correct. And as much as that is what we are reading, let's remember that the paragraph we are reading is titled Philosophy and Society. So in other words, what Nkrumah is saying is that in looking at African society, for instance, we must look at it in terms of what philosophy should correspond, if you like, with the kind of society that we Africans want to build. So it is within that philosophical framework that you can then define the political system, the governance system, and so on. So you are right that the governance systems that we are using are probably not what we need. Now, in terms of the economics, yes, the economic systems that we have today are controlled by monopolies, even at the global level. That is correct. Some people argue that the state is a capitalist state, in the sense that the state is controlled by capital. That is capitalists that control the state. Yeah. So, for instance, the African states, because there are many of them, 55 of them, are controlled by imperialists. And who are the imperialists? The imperialists are the very companies you mentioned. But brother Kofi, would you say that Western firms are meritocratic? I mean, if a Western person has a son and then he has an employee, will he say that because the employee is better learned than his son, that his son shouldn't be MD? I mean, don't they also? I mean, are they really meritocratic? That's the point I'm making. I mean, we understand the Chinese are meritocratic in the governance, and the Communist Party is very, very meritocratic. But can we say the same about Western companies who steal? They kill. You know all that already. The kind of things they are doing in Africa. Stealing our resources. And how is that meritocratic? Stealing the resources of Africans. So so that's just a comment. But the key point I'm making to you is that please feel comfortable with philosophy. That's what Nkrumah is inviting us all to do. Let's not see it as something that belongs to university professors. It belongs to all of us. And then in reading this paragraph, let's, in as much as we're reading it, let's remind ourselves that it is a relationship between philosophy and society that Nkrumah is drawing our attention to. That Plato envisaged a certain society, and he came up with his own philosophy as to how he sees a society. Aristotle disagrees, and Aristotle is his student, disagrees, and also comes up with an alternative philosophy. So, which means that Aristotle is also thinking of society in a different way. Now, what is our way as Africans? How do we see society? How do we see society? So let me pause there.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Let's proceed to Brother the King. Brother the King, once again. Okay.
Sorry, I was on the road. I just got back home. So let me just settle in and I will join.
Okay. Jehovah's, as Brother the King said himself, Jehovah's, are you able to share your thinking with us? Jehovah's to soul.
Well, his camera is on. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think he's speaking now. Thanks.
Yes, please proceed, share your thinking with us in regards to the paragraph.
It's unfortunate that this is my first time joining, and I keep having calls coming in and out. So, I don't know if the main idea is to discuss power, who has power, and then most importantly, personally, I'm not diving deep into people's philosophy, because I believe that the essence of philosophy itself is to give us the edge, the ability to also perceive the world our way and to adjust it to our reality, as long as it does not create a chaos or conflict to its other being existence. So if we are talking about power, who holds power, who has power and how power is being used. I think first of all, power comes from our ability to kind of analyze things and decide the way we want our existence to be. And any individual that do not have that power, I personally would just say does not deserve to live. It just does not deserve to live. And if we put it in the African way, Africans, as they are, should be in a position to protect what they have and defend it by all possible means. If we talk about thinking, from thinking all the way to production, we will realize that most of the time, Africans are always driven in terms of thinking the way other people think, always kind of promoting other ideas without really exhibiting their own ideas and how they perceive the world, how it should be. Obviously, I think King Kwame made mention of the way our society used to be, make it into quote vulnerable for other civilizations that are brutal and aggressive to easily break us down and take over. But then I believe that we need a culture that is dynamic. If it is raining, we should have a way of living. And if it is dry season, we should have a way of living. That is the same way when we encounter civilizations that are brutal, that are detrimental to our existence, we should be able to go into defensive mode. And when it comes, the need comes for us to be offensive, we should also be offensive. We should be able to blend both approaches. So for me, when we talk about power, I believe that individually first, we should be able to make our own meaning of life using the elements in the universe. And most importantly, looking at our environment, because if there is any group on earth that has more to learn from nature, it should be Africans, because we do have everything. If we sit down, we look at how the sun rises, we look at how animals behave, because we have a lot of forests. Our tropical weather is also an advantage. So if we really observe our environment, we should be able to learn from it. So these are my few ideas when it comes to power, that Africans, first of all, need to work, individually understand who they are, their environment, and then how best to put themselves together, both from individual to collectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. You want to come in?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Brother Giovannis. Very, very interesting name. He sounds like my brother from where I come from. His accent. So Brother Giovannis, so what would you? So are you proposing that Africans have a philosophy that is rooted in the environment around them? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think this is actually what I'm saying. In a way that we, in as much as we are more of people, we hold on to the way we used to be so much that we don't really dive into the dynamics of life. We don't blend new way varieties the way it's supposed to be, and that is why when we encounter other culture, it is always difficult for us to deal with them the way they come to us.
Okay. No, it's fine. So it's fine. So what Nkrumah is then saying is that the insight that you just shared with us, because that's the paragraph, the chapter we are looking at is the relationship between philosophy and society. So the insight that you shared with us should then help us to then say, okay, what philosophy should we have as Africans? So I think I think the way you have approached it is right. That is because you are saying that we should root our philosophical approach to life. And I know you've mentioned war in a way, offensive, defensive. That's all part of war, or the military, and so on. And that all that should, from what you are saying, should have its origin in our philosophical approach. And I think that is correct, because that is what Nkrumah is inviting us to look at. So when we are looking at Plato and Aristotle and so on, first of all, we are understanding where our problems are coming from. And I think it was Brother Kwame Gonza that I think I heard him mention this, that the problems that we have, some of the problems that we have are rooted in the way in which they are governing and so on and so forth. So yes. So I think Brother Giovanni, I think you are on the right path. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Brother Prince.
Did you say Prince?
Yeah, there was Senior Prince here. Or he's gone again.
Prince is gone, yeah.
Okay, then let me check who hasn't shared their thinking. None. It's you, Brother Kwame.
Or me?
Yeah, of course you had shared, but now you are responding. I think you are responding also to some. But feel free to come in. And anybody who want maybe to still come into this this paragraph, please let me know so that we can also continue the same. Brother Kwame?
Yeah. No, I think in a way I've also shared my thinking, which is that Plato's thinking, his philosophical, the philosophical basis of his oligarchy is rooted in his annoyance or his anger with the society that killed his teacher Socrates. So he was so angry that he demonized democracy and wanted society to be governed by people who have access to the truth, and so that ordinary people, as he saw it, or the masses as he saw it, will not rule, because he felt that those are the people that killed his teacher. And so he comes up with this philosophy in which the truth is with, if you like, in the mind of God, as it were. And then his teacher Aristotle rejects that and says that the truth is accessible to everyone. And so Aristotle is putting before us, in terms of power or governance, Aristotle is putting before us government by a combination of aristocracy and democracy. So that is what he's saying to us, that everyone has access to the truth. So if you like, ordinary people must also be part of running society. And that is where democracy comes in. But in terms of governance, as we saw, Plato basically does not like that. So I think I have said again and again that when we are reading this, we are not reading this because Nkrumah wants us to worship Plato or Aristotle and so on. What Nkrumah is telling us is that these are how these philosophers try to solve the problems of their society. And so what would we do? What should we do? Of course, in chapter 4 of the book, Nkrumah gives us the answers, because his answer is that the philosophy that we need is philosophical consensusism, and the ideology that we need is consensusism. So he gives us that answer in chapter 4, but he's inviting us to begin to ask those deep questions, you see. And if you look at Ghana today, And Ghana, as you know, went through a recent election, and the governing party has lost, and the opposition party has won. And John Mahama is coming as president on, I think, January the 7th or so. He was sworn in. For us, consensus, we look at that and we say there isn't a fundamental change, because the economic system remains the same. All you will have are those managing it. If you change the managers and the system is the same, how will you expect something different? So the point I'm making is that we have a situation where Africans, when I say Africans here, I mean, let me say Africa has forgotten the Pan-African philosophy and ideology that kind of guided our freedom fighters, the main ones anyway, to bring Africa where we were born into. So a lot of us were born, if not all of us here, were born into post-colonial society, where colonialism had been defeated. And so we're born into the post-colonial society. Our own parents were born into colonial society, and they fought against colonialism, and they won the war. You know, so we have a situation now where we are living in post-colonial society, and the philosophy and ideological position that enabled them to get there, a lot of us have forgotten. All the leaders in Africa, I don't think they have a clue. They are all asleep. Yeah, they're all fast asleep. Some of them who are awake, like Museveni and a few others, they tell us this and that, but they haven't acted upon it. So we have a situation where the philosophical, if you like, framework that should guide everything that we are doing is absent. That is at the leadership level. But amongst us here and amongst some ordinary Africans, this philosophy is alive. And we are hoping that through organizations like the ACUP that our brother Kwame Gonza is chair of, that, and we know they have accepted consensusism, that this, and Brother Pigeon, whose political party also espouses consensusism, we are hoping that consensusism will be brought back into vogue so that we can provide the ideological leadership that our people need. Because without, so I meant ideological and philosophical leadership that our people need. Because without the philosophical and ideological leadership, we will not transform Africa. Liberalism is what brought us capitalism, and that's what brought us neoliberalism, neoliberal capitalism. You understand? It will not. So following liberalism is not going to transform Africa. Conservatism, as you know, has no economics, so they latch onto liberal capitalist economics. Again, if we follow conservatism, it will not help us. If we follow social reformism, again, it will not transform Africa, because they also believe in capitalism. So Marxian economics is our only hope. Not Marxism as a philosophy, but the economics of Marx. And there's an economist in America called Richard Wolff. He has been making a lot of noise about that, about how the corporate world should be reorganized. So Brother Kofi has mentioned the corporate world. So how should the corporate world be reorganized so that it expresses the African Ubuntu? Richard Wolff, who is an American, has written a lot about this. He doesn't mention Ubuntu, but in his writings, because it's Marxist, you can see that the kind of economic system he's talking about is what we Africans will call Ubuntu, and an Ubuntu economic system. So we cannot have an Africa where the economic system is run by an elite. And so that is where we are. The point I'm making is that the philosophy and ideology that is needed to totally liberate, totally unite, and totally develop Africa, it's there, but our leaders don't know, or they are lost, or they are asleep, and so on. So, as usual, we are hoping that our class help. Yes.
Brother Kwame, we are losing you again.
Sorry if you are losing me. Maybe I was speaking. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, you're okay.
I think in my speaking, my volume was going down and down. So that is what we are reading here. So in short, yes.
Oh, okay, I'd like to get in touch with you. I'd like to try to point on some few points here that I will seek your further clarification on. But once you're done.
Yes, I'm done. So
okay. Okay, welcome, brother. Our comrade Seth Shaba. We recognize the challenge you're meeting on the chat. Thank you. Welcome.
Comrade, can I add something?
Yes, brother Gonza.
Okay. So I think that it's not necessarily that we really don't need. I don't know. Maybe it's not the elite. Maybe that's not the right word. But I think that society always. This is how it's supposed to be. I believe that the best in your society should be able to govern this society and give it direction. But they should be able to govern society on behalf of everyone, not themselves, and maybe a group of them. And so when you look at people like Nkrumah, for example, or you look at people like, Mao Zedong, who came up, in China, like you look at the Chinese Communist Party, I don't think there's an organization on this planet Earth currently which governs its society or for its people as that of China. I really don't think. I don't see it. All these societies which people say, oh, they are democratic and all that, they don't govern, most of them or majority of them, on behalf of the people. But you have, of course, a refined group of people who know at least what to do, but this knowing is not for, themselves. So I think that this should be like Nkrumah, like this. He knew more than everyone. Like even the Americans said, okay, this is somebody who was 100 years of the society he was leading. He was governing. He was 100 years of everyone, and many people have come out to testify this. And of course, majority of the leadership in the, during the independence movement on the African continent, majority of them were like that. So these people, you always needed them. But then the question arises, can we create a system whereby these people do not fall into what Fukuyama currently calls political decay, or they are not captured by other forces? Can we create a system like how the Chinese also say, okay, this guy of Alibaba, he was trying to show himself that he's bigger than the government, which is representing the people at that particular moment, and the government pounced on him and shut him down with his money, and they punished him for that. But in the United States, it cannot happen. The rich, like you see with Elon Musk, he can buy the presidency. He bought the presidency with about 270 million, and he had Trump elected. So in China, it cannot happen like this. You cannot, it cannot be. So that means that this guy with his money, he has pounced on the system, the whole system. He has used his money to defeat the whole system. But in China, it cannot happen. Somebody cannot come with his money. So now the question then here arises, because now it's like the guy has even attained $500 billion. So he had motive in supporting Trump. Now he's become one of the richest human beings, or the richest human being ever. And some people are predicting he may knock 1 trillion, the first human to reach $1 trillion net worth. Right now, his net worth is around $500 billion, as big as the Nigerian or the South African economy. So then he was having motives for supporting Trump with his money. Now, while in China, this cannot happen. And yet, in this society too, in China, you have elites. While the elites in the West are going in a different direction, they have been corrupted, as I gave an example, as it was in Rome. In China, the system is still holding. And so they built something. So the question is, in Africa now, can we look into this and build the system which takes the best out of our society, from all society? Everyone should get a chance to participate and get a shot at governing this society, regardless of whether they came from whatever background, peasant background, so that you don't have a concentrated elite, which we are calling elite, like in the United States, the Obama group, the Nancy Pelosi and the Mitt Romney's. Mitt Romney's father was a governor, and then George Bush's father was a governor, was a president, and Bush Jr. also comes and becomes the president. And all of them, when you look at them governing in the Congress, United States Congress, sons of governors, they are the ones who are occupying over there. Now, can we create a system out of our society which will be able to remove these weaknesses and at least maintain some sanity, so that the best in society, regardless of their background, can govern our African society? So that issue.
Yeah, you see, Mr. Gonza, my challenge is with your terminology, the best in society. What do you mean by that, the best in society?
So the best in society, those who are willing, they have the passion, but at the same time, they have taken the pain or the trouble to know the world around them, and understand the forces that are running the whole society.
So can you tell us a bit more about that? So
we could choose a different name. We could choose a different name and say, okay, they are not intellectuals, or maybe they are not they are not elites. But can we? That is the best I'm talking about in society. People who want to govern society for all, but they have this capacity to do it.
So your description of Elon Musk and so on is affirming the Platonic position, then that
it's not affirming Platonic position. Actually, it's not, because Plato was saying the intellectuals, alone intellectuals, whatever it is, the elites, those ones who have the advantages. Me, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that from all backgrounds, can we go to society in all and take all people background and give them an opportunity to prove themselves, and the best can go and govern, and then the cycle continues. We can build a system which goes through society.
Sorry, Mr. Gonza, I'm not saying that you said that we should have a system like Elon Musk. I'm not saying that. I was just interested in your concept of the best. That's all. Thank you.
May I answer, Mr. Gonza? I think we can, and the system we can. If we pick a country called Ethiopia, and this country called Ethiopia has districts or assemblies and whatever you call it. In a small district, you have somebody who there's a vacancy, just like, and I go back to the corporate world, where I said that the corporate world system already exists, and that is what is being practiced in China. The West also practices that system, but you will not see it. What you see at the multi-party level is just cosmetic. What happens in the West is still the corporate world, just as what happens in China. With China, they don't have the cosmetic, so you don't see it. So the corporate system, which is the Ubuntu system, which we have, or have always had, we have given ourselves, we've left ourselves open to think that it's a solely multi-party system, and therefore there's no meritocratic opportunity for anybody. That meritocratic opportunity for everybody exists, but it's just that we have to find ways to, how do we then take advantage of the meritocratic system? Because in the West and in China, they are practicing one. In America and Britain and all the rest of them, they have a cosmetic image. You will not know. Behind that is a corporate meritocratic system. And then China does it wholesome. So for us, and as Brother Kwame was saying, it's now for us to, how do we harness the people who have when I say knowledge, I'm not talking about academic knowledge. I'm talking about practical knowledge, who have the wisdom, zeal, belief, commitment to lead. So in a country of Imorphia, if you pick a district A as an example, or we need somebody who can be our leader in District A. A group of people can, there'll be instead of an electoral system, you have anybody who wants to apply for the role, and you get a group of people who will then vet and say this person is the best person to lead. And you have to apply that model across, right, even to the presidency. If you pick a company like, just pick a company called Unilever as an example. What happens in Unilever? The CEO is not an electoral system which goes on there. They apply for the job, and the best. So many people apply, and the best person, there's a vetting, the best person is picked. And you can then cascade that, in our own system where we have our District A, District B, who's the best person. Now, after a period of time when you've had people who are well-versed in District A, District B, then they can be escalated, elevated towards the presidency. By the time they get to the presidency, we all know them. Oh, Kwame Gonza, he was working in District A. He was there for 3 years and he did so marvelous. That gives you the reference to even be a presidency. And that's a system and model where you cannot be infiltrated by the West because we don't have an electoral system. Because the cosmetic multi-party system is a way of capturing the weak minds in Africa. Because they have a political system, they will finance the political party system and enable to influence the affairs and governance of that particular country. We have to break that. We have to break the ability to, and that pathway from the West is the multi-party cosmetic which they've given us. And if we follow a system, they cannot infiltrate that. So that's my point. Yes, sir.
But you probably have to come and do a presentation for us on one of the Saturdays, because I think you have something you can share with us on a new governance system for Africa. So you and Mr. Gonza should get together. I know Brother Gonza has done some work on how a system should work. So maybe you and Gonza should come and do a presentation for us on a Saturday. But thank you very much. Brother Pigeon, you need to bring the meeting to a close. It's 3 minutes to 8. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for those who have participated today. We have actually been, as Brother Kwame has reminded us, we've been looking at the political power in a society and social power in a society. And of course, we've engaged a bit on the Plato's thinking vis-a-vis Aristotle's thinking. I believe we'll still proceed with more of this before we come to an end of this chapter. But as Brother Kwame has stated, this is actually to understand the relationship between philosophy and society. And it's true, some of the experience we are also seeing here still exists in some of our society today. And therefore, those who sometimes say, why do we study Plato and Aristotle? They're irrelevant. But basically, it seems that these people have been actually using the same mentality of the ideas of Plato up to date. And they still say that it's irrelevant to study what they did or Aristotle and what they did. Basically, maybe we have not learned where we draw some of the thinking or philosophies that run our society today. And that we need actually to understand them the same way Nkrumah is trying to expose them to us. We need to learn their weaknesses so that we can be able to combat it and destroy it in order to raise a society as per Nkrumah's wish and vision. Because actually, this philosophy is to decolonize, which means whatever practice we are making today is still a colonized practice, and not only colonized from the European, but way back then. So thank you very much for your time today. We look forward to engage and continue this study next Thursday. And on this Saturday, we will actually be able to notify you on what we'll be discussing about. But basically, we are having the conversation on the unification of Africa, both political, economics, and we'll be moving beyond to other aspects of the unification of Africa. And we look forward to see you in our conversation this Saturday and invite you to join us at the same time, 6 p.m. GMT, I'll be able to share the links with you. These recordings will be available next week, and the last recordings are actually available on our YouTube channel, including the Dogon history, so feel free to watch our recordings. We also have a library, a Pan-African library, with multiple of books that are actually around all these aspects. So feel free also to get in touch with me if you really want to join the library, or you can just join our library in our community page where we have various groups of CSG. So once again, without further ado, permit me to say thank you for your time, and may you have a lovely evening to you all, or morning to wherever you are. Thank you. Brother Kwame.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.